Hello, everybody. My name is False, and today we're going to be talking about Apex Legends. This is the newest craze. In the first month of it being released, it has already reached over 50 million players. Good on them. And today we're going to be talking about the best settings for low spec PCs, because many people think that it's only about just putting everything to the lowest setting possible. And although that is definitely a part of it, you shouldn't only put things to the lowest setting possible. So let's go ahead and go into the settings now. So, uh, the best way to find out your best sensitivity is not to just lower it as much as you can. I recommend going to the training area, uh, going in, putting it at, I would say, 2.5 sensitivity, and then moving around, trying to do a full 180. And if you can do a full 180 on your mouse pad with a 2.5 cents, then try it out there. But increase it ever so slightly until you can do a full 180. And if you want to do a 360 for some reason, go ahead and increase it a little bit more. I have a pretty big mouse pad, so I'm running a pretty low sensitivity, as you can see. For keybinds, many people just stick with the standard keybinds only, and although that can work for some people, I recommend just trying out everything. Try and keep everything to the central keys around WASD, like tab, 1, 2, like the number row, ERF, GT, ZXCV, and Q. Try and keep everything in this cluster. And also, what many people overlook are the buttons on your mouse. These mouse buttons can help you a lot because they're so close to where you hold your mouse. All you have to do is move it up less than an inch, and then you're already activating your tactical ability. And many people overlook these because they see people like Shroud, who doesn't use his mouse binds because he's been playing games before gaming mice had buttons on the side of the mouse, so he isn't used to it and he doesn't care for them. But I do recommend switching to that. For all of the controller players, I don't know why that's on 3, I recommend just testing out whatever sensitivity, uh, like, don't just immediately go to the world record holder sensitivity, because although that sensitivity works for them, it doesn't immediately mean that that sensitivity is going to work for you. So I recommend putting your sensitivity to whatever the standard is. Right here. This is the standard. I recommend increasing it to 4 and 3, just setting it there, and then in games, whatever you're noticing you have trouble with, like say you aren't able to loot fast enough, so you increase it one, so you increase your standard looking around sensitivity up one more. And let's say you aren't able to track somebody fast enough, because if you're ADSing at somebody and they're moving around and you can't track them well enough, that means that your ADS sensitivity is too low, so maybe you want to increase that to 4. My personal ADS sensitivity, although I did not have it on here immediately, on PlayStation I run a 6 and a 5. And I know that that's pretty high for some people, but I'm used to running a high sensitivity because of Fortnite. So the response curve is the dead zones. It's similar to the dead zones. So uh, I recommend putting it to steady or fine aim. I don't recommend ever putting it to high velocity or linear, because the thumbsticks. One second, let me get my controller. Uh, the thumbsticks on your controller. Your thumbs aren't necessarily the most adept uh part of your hand, so it's very hard to just take the raw input of your two thumbsticks. So I recommend putting it to fine aim and small, if you think that you have pretty good aim and everything like that, and then whenever if you've had your PS4 controller for a very long time or your Xbox controller for a very long time, I recommend uh, increasing your dead zones a fair amount because you might have drift in your thumbstick, which means that without moving your thumbstick at all, it's looking around in a different direction or you're moving in another direction. So increasing your sensitivity, not sensitivity, sorry, your dead zone might be able to fix that drift problem for you. Go ahead and put the controller over there. Vibration. I don't have the rumble packs in my controller, so I just don't mess with vibration because I automatically don't have it. But if you have vibration on, I recommend turning it off because the vibration can move around your controller and mess up your aim. And although it makes you feel more immersed in the game, if you're trying to get into that more competitive field and play, I recommend turning vibration off. Inverted look, this is purely personal preference. I learned games without it on, so I recommend just putting it in there. Same thing with the aim button and crouch button. I've always gotten used to toggle for crouch, holding down for aim. So video, the thing that everybody cares about. Uh, Although most people just set their field of view to high, I definitely don't recommend putting your field of view to max because whenever, and you can test this in the training arena, whenever you have your field of view on max, you always are zoomed out, so it's better for very close combat because you're able to see more. But it also may cause performance issues if you're on a standard PS4 or have a low spec PC, and it also it, since it zooms everything out, it's similar to Fortnite. Whenever you run a stretched resolution, all it does is increase your field of view and make the game not look as good. But it makes everything zoomed out more, so it's harder to get those long distance shots. So if you're more of a long distance player, you might want to put this down to the 80s. If you're more of a close range shotty player, you might want to put that up to say 100. I'm just whatever the fight calls for type of guy, so I usually have it set to 90. And the display mode, full screen is generally the best for any game that you're playing because if you set it to windowed, then you won't be able to mess with your resolution outside of 16 by 9 or whatever resolution your standard uh, monitor is, and then you'd also have like the Windows tab and bar at the bottom of the screen or wherever you have it set at. So I don't recommend windowed, and it also decreases FPS because of how much more stuff that's having to display. Borderless window, although it has the game full screen, it still also decreases your FPS because it has to be readily available to go to any other specific tab. So full screen's what you should generally stick to. 16 by 10 is what I personally use because then you can lower your resolution to a slightly stretched resolution, so it doesn't really look as bad as just decreasing the resolution, but it also makes the body types of the characters larger, which I think is just it's helped me personally because whenever it's larger, you can see them better, and also the hitboxes are slightly larger for you personally. Uh, you can have it on 16 by 9 native, but 4 by 3 and 5 by 4. Uh, I for some reason whenever I set it to this, it gives me black bars. So if I am ever able to find a way to have it not be like that, I will definitely make a video on that. So VSync. VSync basically sets your game to the refresh rate of your monitor. So if you have a 144 hertz excuse me monitor, then it will automatically put your FPS to 144. And you might think, oh, that's amazing, because then it'll just be automatically 144 FPS. But the problem with that is it will also cause screen tearing if your computer cannot run it normally. So VSync is basically the budget FreeSync or G-Sync. So I definitely do not encourage people using VSync because it also would have input lag. So yeah, definitely do not want that. So any game that you're playing has the rights to look at whatever specs your computer are. So this this adaptive resolution FPS target, I set it to 0 because usually the games don't get it very correct on how you want to uh have it. And I just have never used it in any of my games. I've tried it, didn't like it. Next up, anti-aliasing. So for all of these other video options, you really just disable these or set these to the lowest possible if you're trying to get into competitive gaming, like esports, scrims, tourneys, whatever. Uh, so all of these are pretty much set to the lowest possible thing, except for your texture streaming budget. Set this to whatever storage your graphics card has. So for instance, I have a GTX 1050 Ti. I know it's not the best, uh, but you said it. My graphics card has 4 GB of VRAM. So if I was to set it to 3 GB, although it would probably increase my FPS, it makes the game look much more horrid than it does. And I don't think that the FPS boost is really enough, because it makes you to where you can't see pretty much anything. 2 to 3 GB, it really makes it completely horrible. Same thing with 2 GB and none, just means that your game, you can't really see anything. So set this to whatever your graphics card is. Bilinear, disabled, low, 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 disabled, low, 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 disabled, all that. For uh for audio, I have push to talk on, because if I'm ever doing anything, uh, I just have push to talk on. Makes things easier for me. I have it in pretty much all my games like that. This game, for me, is extremely loud. So I have the master volume set to about half. Open mic threshold means that how sensitive your mic, the game will have your mic inputs. The voice chat in this game is absolutely horrible. I really wish that they would improve it, because it sounds like no matter how good of a mic you have, you're talking on Xbox 360 game chat. It is not good. The music and lobby music volume, I've never cared for music in my games. Unless it's like a really good soundtrack, then I might increase this to say 8, 9, 10%. But I don't really care for it in this game, so I have it at 0% sound in background. So this basically means whenever you're alt tabbed and like watching a YouTube video, it allows game sounds. So I turn that off. I don't really want it. Subtitles, I have subtitles on, as I do for almost all my games that have important dialogue between the people, because if the group that you're playing with, if somebody doesn't have a mic, the characters in game still shout things out like reloading or something like that. Cover me, I'm reloading. So you'll be able to see that in the subtitles, and it definitely helps, especially whenever you have a Bangalore on your team and there's a Bangalore on the other team that you are fighting. You don't know which ultimate is on the firefight right now, and then you're able to see that it was a friendly Bangalore's. I have these off because, one, it doesn't always get them right. This basically means that any text that anybody says will come up as speech, and it isn't always right. I don't like it. I can just read it. That's it for me. Uh, so button hints. I'm actually gonna turn this off now, but it would basically just it's like CS:GO if you've ever played that, where it just tells you what something does or how it does something, whatever. With the crosshair damage feedback, I personally like X with shield icon, so that if I'm hitting somebody, I can know if it's shield or flesh and all that kind of stuff. I need damage numbers, but I don't want. I just want the all of the recent damage. I don't really care for anything other than that. 3D for this. Stream mode off because I don't really stream this game. I usually just play for fun. Color by mode, I'm not colorblind and I don't really like how the game looks with it on. Uh, I've never needed to use this. This is the same things that were in audio. So, uh, put in the comments below whether you want to see some more Apex Legends videos. If you want to see any gameplay, also tell me that, because I'll definitely work on that then. Uh, that was false, and I'm